My next question is, due to your travel, and you said earlier you've toured around, different countries, cities, states, which of those has been your favorite city or state to visit, and why?
Cape Town, South Africa.
Nice.
Yeah.
Why?
Cape Town in South Africa. There's just something about Cape Town. Cape Town is it's like a combination of Europe and America and Africa, and it's
everything.
weird. Like it's an interesting combination of everything. And then they have a couple. I mean, the landscapes as well. So they have mountains, they have hills, they have beaches, they have like deserts. It's an amazing place.
Wow.
So I think Cape Town. Maybe Dubai after that. And then.
Why do you like Dubai?
Just because it's modern. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean modernist. I like contemporary architecture and all that fancy stuff. Yeah, so I like Dubai because of that. And then I feel like Dubai is a place that should inspire anyone who's trying to develop their country, because I mean these people literally built that whole thing out of a desert. If they can do that in a desert, then I mean, what's your excuse anywhere else in the world? You know what I mean? So
that's a good point.
Yeah, I like Dubai because of that as well. But Cape Town is my favorite, and that's just a personal thing. Like,
Right.
I really enjoyed being in Cape Town. The weather was perfect. I guess the houses, the villas that we stayed in were like really nice. We had amazing views. They had those infinity pools. There was a tabletop mountains. Do you know about the tabletop mountain?
No, I haven't.
So apparently there's a mountain in Cape Town. Not apparently, there is a mountain in Cape Town that has the clouds flowing downhill on the side of the mountain. So it's flat at the top, and it looks like the clouds are literally pouring down the side of the mountain, and it's like that for most of the day.
Oh, wow.
It's the most amazing thing you'll see. It's probably one of the wonders of the world. I don't know why they don't call it that, but it actually is amazing. Like, you don't see clouds in the sky. It looks like the clouds are literally forming on top of the mountain and spilling down the side. So it's like a tablecloth, which is why they call it the table. Yeah, table mountain.
Sounds beautiful. Now I'm gonna have my husband take me there.
Yeah.
He's in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what about a favorite state to visit or city to visit in the US? And then
LA.
we'll get to Nigeria.
LA.
But LA?
Yeah.
Why?
Sure. LA because of how many things you can do in LA. I mean, LA is so large. I think it's the largest city in the US. It has to be. It's so large, and there's so many attractions. I mean, all the beaches, the parks, the museums, the people, I think. I mean, the people have a good side and a bad side. I mean, there's a good side in the fact that everyone's friendly, everyone's liberal, everyone's like free and like, welcoming and stuff. I guess the bad side is there are lots of bougie people and everyone's kind of a little bit fake.
Yeah,
so,
it's something.
Yeah, but I like LA. I actually just came back from LA last week. I went with the family just to go hang out for my birthday. Yeah.
Nice.
That was cool.
Yeah, you just had a birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much.
We're almost birthday mates.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
No,
mine was just 30th, May 30th.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, happy birthday to you, too.
Thank you. What about favorite state in Nigeria?
State in Nigeria. I grew up in Kaduna, so I have an emotional attachment to Kaduna, even though I may not completely agree with what it represents. But I don't know, there's something about where I grew up and the memories that I have growing up there that makes me feel like Kaduna is one of my favorite places. It's like living in suburban America. That's really what it's like. Yeah, it's laid back. It's very calm and serene, and people mind their business when things aren't like all the way opposite, where it's like people going crazy and killing people and riots and shit. But yeah, but I have a thing. I'm not a fan of Lagos, so I'll just put that out there.
I had a feeling.
No.
When you said suburban, America, I had a feeling you wouldn't like Lagos. That makes sense.
I did not want to be in Lagos at all. And then coupled with the fact that I didn't get to go to university here like I wanted to, and then I ended up in Unilag, and then my dad took my car and said I needed to go and learn how to take public transportation. I mean, so many things just made Lagos like a really bad experience for me, so.
Understandable.
And then living in Lagos as an adult and, having a house there and a family there and security and traffic and and corruption and all the kidnapping. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
The list goes on and on. Huh?
I think I like it. I like it in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's fine. That's okay. I mean, it's understandable because I lived in Lagos too, you know, born and raised, but I don't think I experienced half of the things you experience. So it makes sense if you're looking at it from that point of view.
Right. And it's also the kind of people that are around you, and you know, in my experience, most of my Lagos experience was as Eldee. Which made me, which I recognize is not the average Lagos experience, right?
Yeah.
I had lots of privileges that I know many people don't, but then I was able to see it, you know, and I saw how people were treated and how
because of who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lots of advantages, but I could also see how it could have been different.
Yep. Yeah. Easily if you didn't have those advantages.
Yeah.
That makes sense. My next question is, how do you distress?
Back in the day, I would watch movies and maybe just read books or something, even though I don't read like physical books.
Right.
And you put that out there too. I think I have dyslexia or ADD or something because I'm looking at pages and then the words just start getting all mumble jumbled, and I get distracted easily, like when I'm reading a physical book, but when I'm listening to an audiobook, I'm more engaged or something. So yeah, so that's what I used to do. But what I do now, or what I'm learning to do now, is actually meditate. Yeah. So I've had a confused understanding of what meditation actually is over the years, and now I'm appreciating it, because meditation to me back then was like a spiritual thing, but it isn't. Meditation is just letting yourself be in the moment and learning to recalibrate. And initially when I started, I was like, what's this nonsense? And then when I really took it serious and started trying to see the advantages of it, I realized, oh, okay, so yeah, that's what I do now.
Nice.
It's like when I want to just relax, just meditate. And then I'm learning to also take blocks of time out of my day where I do nothing.
I like that one best. And my husband knows. Some days people will ask, what do you have plans for this weekend? I'm like, just to do absolutely nothing.
Yep.
And it's very good. I think with the busyness, it's just nice to be mindful or mindfully, just detach.
Take care of your mental health, basically.
Amen. Yeah. It's very, very big.
Yeah.
My next question is, do you have a favorite actor, movie, book?
Favorite actor? No, not really. I think that, what's his name? Brad Pitt is amazing, because I've seen him play so many different characters throughout his career, where I feel like he is, how do you go from Snatch to, what was the one, the coward that killed the Jesse James one? How do you go from Snatch to the Jesse James one? It takes a lot of skill to be like this, country Irish guy, and then also to be like this country American guy, and then go play I think he's amazing. I also think I like what's the Titanic guy's name again?
Leonardo
DiCaprio. Yeah, I think he's amazing as well. I think he's very strong, passionate. Tom Cruise is always the same character.
Yeah.
So even though I like him,
one-dimensional.
He's kind of one-dimensional. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's right. Yeah.
If you had to, maybe we shouldn't go into.
What?
I'll ask you that later. No, because I had this. We had this argument, my husband and I, and one of our other friends, like, who's the better actor, Leonardo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt?
It has to be Brad Pitt. It has to be.
Okay.
It has to be.
I actually thought the same.
But the reason I'm saying, and people have the different reasons. I have this argument with my brother-in-law as well, where he's like, nah, man, Leonardo. And I say, well, listen, here's how my own perspective of it is. The more diverse you are, the better you are. That's how I see it. But then some people feel like the more passionate you are, then the better you are. So if you're talking about passion, then Leonardo gets it, no doubt. But if you're talking about diversity, then Brad Pitt gets
But I
it.
think you could argue diversity. I mean, wait. You said Leonardo gets passion, but I think Leonardo is also, he has that different range, because that movie Revenant and Wolf, what's the name
Wolf
of
of
that
Wall
movie?
Street.
Wolf of Wall
I
Street.
mean, the one thing all
it
those
was
movies
different.
have, no, the one thing they all have is passion, right? Like his characters
That's
are
true.
very strong characters. Like he plays those really. What was the one about him being a rich guy that lived in his mansion?
Yeah, that was actually my favorite one.
So
I
there you
forgot
go.
the name now. The Great Gatsby.
Great Gatsby, yeah. So
Loved
he plays these characters that are very strong.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt's character could be a side character in a movie, but it would be very impactful. You get lost. Like if I'm watching a movie and I remember that this is Leonardo DiCaprio, then to me I feel like I'm not really connecting with the character enough. But if I'm watching a movie and I forget that it's a Brad Pitt, and I'm like into the character,
Yeah, he does.
you know what
that.
I mean? That's what
that.
makes me feel like Brad Pitt is.
I actually like the way you analyzed it, and now I'm gonna make sure that my friend watches this interview, because I'm like, see, this is what I was trying to articulate, but I couldn't. But I feel honestly, I like Brad Pitt more. It just has that, you know, when you just have that swag, you get it.
Yeah.
You get it. I don't think a lot of people do. But that makes sense. And that Great Gatsby, I thought it was fit. That's actually my favorite movie of his.
wow.
Which is yours? For Leonardo?
It has to be Inception.
I haven't seen it.
What?
I know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. Someone
do you have like
telling me that.
Amazon? I think
I'm so
it's on one of those
ashamed.
things. Amazon Prime or
We have
Netflix or something.
Amazon Prime, actually. I'll have to
it's on
check
there.
it out.
Yeah.
I know, I feel bad. Now I feel so not prepared. I should have watched that movie. Then we would have had like another 5-minute conversation on it. But I heard what it's about, like when it was like in a dream or something, or under something.
If I explain what it is, then I'll ruin it. But basically, it's about manipulating people by going into their dreams to plant ideas.
I'll have to watch it.
So hopefully I haven't spoiled. That's not a spoiler.
No, it's not.
Hopefully,
That's like a great synopsis. But now I have to watch it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Eldee called me out on it. Like I have to watch it. But yeah, those I like Leonardo too. So my next question for you is, could you share 3 top songs or artists you think everyone should know? Be it established, upcoming, or underrated.
Artists that I think everyone should know.
Mm-hmm.
As far from like making the kind of music that I enjoy and making like Nigerian music, which is kind of my passion, that's where I came from. And even though he probably is one of the biggest artists right now, I'd say more people should know Wizkid.
Absolutely.
I'm a fan, not just because I saw him like kind of start his whole career and become who he is now, but because I actually genuinely enjoy the music. Like, people would argue and say, oh, you know, content-wise and lyrically and all of that, but I'm just listening for music. It's entertainment to me. Like, I'm not really paying attention to the content, which is where some people may have an argument, but I'm just listening for the music. Like, I just want to listen, I just want to enjoy the music, and he probably has the most number of songs on my playlist. Nice. So him as one. Someone else I think is a really good writer and is kind of on his way up right now is Mo Logo. I like him too. He's written some songs that I thought were pretty cool. He wrote Tiwa's, what's that record? The one with Omari on?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. It's called Get It Now.
Oh, I don't think I know that one.
Yeah, Tiwa Savage has a record called Get It Now that I believe he had a hand in writing that. He also has some records. He has a record called Iriti, which is like just phenomenal. I think Iriti easily is one of the best songs that I've heard by a Nigerian in the last like decade. Yeah.
Nice.
Like, lyrically,
I'll have to check
he's
it out.
he's very strong. He works with Adekunle Gold
Yeah.
as well, quite often, and I like the collaborations that they've done. He's a good writer. I like him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the third artist? Maybe a female now, because now I'm feeling like...
Your feminism's kicking in? Okay.
You said it.
Let me see. Female. Can I go with 2?
Please.
Oh my God! Like, this is.
Please.
Let me tell you why this is horrible because.
Because you didn't even think of a female first, but I'm gonna let that one go.
Listen. I try to be fair. Like I said earlier about gender, I don't even consider it. So, if my favorite is male, it just happens to be. That's it. Like, I'm not saying, oh no, I need to put a woman just so that I can fit into. That's not me. But to
the females.
Yeah.
2.
Females. I'll probably go with and you see I'm going with Nigerian artists.
Yeah.
I'll probably go with Tiwa and Yemi Alade. Even though my other female artist friends are gonna kill me for this, but I will go with Tiwa Savage and Yemi Alade. And the reason I would do that is because I believe that what Tiwa represents is what I would have loved for our female artists to represent for Nigerian music, which is to have a crossover appeal and at the same time be able to connect with your audience in a way that is authentic to you. Okay.
So, can I throw one name out there?
Throw it.
Because when you were like...
Thinking about
the 2...
Simi?
No. No.
Shay?
Asha.
Okay.
You don't like Asha?
No, it's not that. I love Asha. However, you said 3. And the first 3 that came to mind, maybe because of my current playlist.
And then you got 2 females. If I'd given you 3 females, would Asha have been your third choice? No, I'm kidding.
Actually, maybe not. Maybe not. Not because I don't like Asha. Not because I love
Asha.
I love Asha. Maybe as much as you do, but I listen to more Simi. So I maybe put Simi ahead of Asha. Just because, not because I think that she's better, not because I feel like, in any way her music, I don't even really compare the music. It's just based on, when you ask a question like this, and this is something else that we do that we need to pay attention to.
Right.
You ask people questions, you're calling my most immediate memory, and the things that I listened to recently is what I'm going to talk about. Right?
That's true.
So I remember Simi, I remember Yemi, I remember Tiwa.
But I think Simi is one dimensional. I have this talk with my husband all the time. He's a big fan of Simi. And I think he and Simi also, they went to school together. But I think our tone is just like, okay, it's the same, but you get that, right?
I get what you're saying. I don't agree. I get it. I don't agree. I get it. But it's almost like listening to Drake. You listen to a Drake album, by the 5th song, you're like, bruh, do another one now. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it feels, but then that's the style, right? And I feel like that's actually what's missing from a lot of artists these days, is people don't have a style anymore.
True.
Simi has a style.
That's true.
Adekunle Gold has a style.
Yeah.
Like back in the day when we were growing up, every artist had their own style.
It's like a brand.
Had their own signature.
Like a logo thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, when you have artists these days that today they sound like this and tomorrow they sound like that and the next day they sound like this, then you're like, okay, well, what's your actual sound, right?
You're right. But I think I just appreciate, when you speak of, people say you're creative, I appreciate diversity, just different range, excite me, surprise me, even if you can.
As an actor,
but
maybe, but as a singer, not really.
It's different.
I don't want you to do reggae today and then do R&B tomorrow.
But change is good.
I like medleys and little gumbo combination of things, but all the way left and all the way right, bruh, be somewhere is my thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I like I like when you mix a little bit of this and that. So maybe that's what that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you listened to her album? Like, actually sat down and listened to her album? Not really.
No,
You haven't given it a
not
chance.
a whole
Because
album.
you're listening, and you're listening for Asha. Does she sound like Asha? She doesn't sound like Asha. It's nonsense.
Maybe that's what my husband says too.
So there you go.
But Asha is just okay. So Asha, yes, I think you already picked on the fact that I am a feminist. But I just think Asha is very, and I also listen for what they're saying. Like,
Content.
what are you saying? Like, I find her inspiring. I feel like she's always trying to get, she's political too. She's bold. So I like her for that. Like, she just, it's there. I mean, all her albums. And she's been consistent.
How many albums she have now? 3?
Right now, she has 3. Yep. She has 3. And
I listened to all 3, and I think that it's really
more.
amazing stuff.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's very nice.
Very amazing. And I'm actually quite honored to have watched her closely, like in her early years of like, yeah. We used to do these shows at the Vault back in the day when she was signed to I forget the name of the label now, when she was working with Cobams and the rest of the guys. I got to listen to the music then. I got to hear her actually play live, like the very raw versions of the songs.
Right.
So yeah, so I definitely appreciate
yeah.
Someone else you should check out if you like Asha. You should check out Aramide.
Aramide. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, look her up.
I'm not sure I know who that is.
She's also pretty good, yeah.
Okay, I'll check her out.
Actually, I think I discovered her. I think.
You did?
I think so. Wow. Don't tell anybody.
No. Only my bloggers. But so my next question for you is, you do have a podcast. This should have actually been like one of the top 3 questions.
Right.
But you have a podcast, and I have to ask, what inspired you to begin that?
To do a podcast. That is a great question.
Also motivates you to keep it up.
To keep doing it. Okay, so very good questions. So I'll try and keep this as short as possible. I wanted to do an autobiography. The reason I wanted to do that is because I feel like people aren't chronicling the history of African culture.
Okay.
Of over the last 2 decades. There's not much documentation, right? Recently, because of social media, we can go back and look at social media and kind of see the trends, right?
Yes.
But before social media, and I'm talking about between 95 and like 2010, there isn't much of any journals, chronicles, or anything of that era. So I was trying to do an autobiography so I could tell my story, and maybe I could leave in some reference points, historical reference points that people could use for other things down the line. And then because I was really close to it, like, I could tell you stories about plantation boys and nobody else knows. I can tell you stories about like remedies and the Tony Tetuilas and the early Olu Maintain. I'm sorry, not Olu Maintain, but Maintain. And all of the guys who were like the early Renaissance artists that really made Afro beats a thing, right? So I spoke to a professional writer, and the writer said, because I'm not a writer. And I've never done radio or anything like that. So she said to me, listen, what you need to do is just record your stories. So just grab your phone whenever you remember any stories from your childhood and keep recording them. But when you're recording them, make sure that you're very descriptive, because you're trying to write an autobiography that is not meant for Nigerians. You're trying to write an autobiography for anyone who cares to listen. So like you asked me a question earlier, who is my audience? And I said, anybody who cares to listen. So and that was one of the things she asked as well, is, who are you? Who's your target? And I said, well, anyone who cares to know, right? And she's like, okay, so that means that you're going to have to explain the nuances, break down context so people can understand what you're talking about. People who aren't familiar with the culture will get it. So when I started recording, I just thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to start telling. So it was just random stories, not in any kind of chronological order, just like record anything you remember. Record from like when you were a kid, when you've grown up, when you moved to the US, when you were in. So the first one I recorded was my first time coming to New York, right? As an adult. And after I recorded it, my wife listened to it and she was like, this is a podcast. Why does this sound like a podcast? I was like, that was not the intention. And she's like, no. This actually could be a podcast because I know the story, but I'm listening to it and I'm enjoying it. Like, how did you? And I also thought, well, don't know. Like, that wasn't the intention, right? So anyway, she plays it back for like 1 or 2 people, and I noticed the way they were like, oh, whoa, okay, this is pretty good, you know, and it was engaging or whatever. So I said, oh, okay. So that's how the podcast came about. So it wasn't like I started off trying to do a podcast. It was me just recording like stories, but then of course that initial one kind of went through transformation from it just being like me telling a story to, okay, you know what, maybe I should dramatize this part a little bit, maybe I should add some audio effects here, maybe I should. Obviously I was recording it with a software that I was very familiar with because of my music production days, so let me add an airplane little thing here, okay, let me add some footsteps here, okay, let me add this here, and I noticed that made it even more engaging, so that was kind of how the podcast started.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think what I like most about the podcast from different things, different podcasts I've listened to, I like that when you make, you do different voices and someone else does, especially that episode, with the pregnant girl, well, not pregnant girl, the university girl that, with the sexual thing with the professor.
With the professor, yeah.
That was really just the different, and I think it ties back to what I like about just different things, not the same thing, but that's really nice.
I think you like that? I think you like that because we're from a storytelling culture. Like
I love storytelling.
That's who we are. Like just naturally as Africans, most of our history has been told to us, by stories, and because also we're very religious, like it's really mostly like parables and stories and stories and stories and stories. So I think we connect better when it's a story versus when it's a lecture. So,
but I do love the history. I like the references you give. I also, you mentioned your favorite books in there. I just like, it's a great way to know you, and I think it's also just getting an understanding of who you are in bits and pieces of what you're sharing.
I'm glad it's coming off that way.
It is awesome. So definitely keep it up.
Thank
you. Hopefully this interview will keep you accountable to continue
bringing to do it. I mean, I'll continue to try. I mean, that's the part that I didn't answer is how come I've been so consistent with it. I've been consistent with it because I was going to do my autobiography anyway. That was my mission, right? So maybe this is an opportunity for me to put the stories out there, fact check all the stories, and then also get other people's perspectives about some of the stories that I'm telling. So I talk about, like, for instance, I talk about cultism in the university.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know the history of cultism.
Yeah.
And the reason they don't know it is because it's not documented anywhere.
Right.
And so this is an opportunity to tell that story, pretty much. So that's the whole purpose. So that's my motivation, really, is that some of the things, like we spoke earlier before we started the interview, some of the things we were talking about, these are podcast episodes. Like I'm going to talk about my time in Kaduna when I almost got killed, during the riots, and how those stories just never get out. Just the same way the stories about the cultism incidents in Unilag just never got out. Like it was just, another day in Nigeria, so.
It's true.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know the frequency of when you post, how often do you post?
So initially I wanted to do it weekly, but then I realized that's not sustainable because I have a lot of other things going on.
Right.
So I tried to make it bi-weekly.
Okay.
That also didn't work out because I did bi-weekly, and then one time I just had like 3 episodes and I was like, I'll just release them back to back. So yeah, it's been inconsistent, but my goal for the second season is to always have a couple episodes so that I can keep my bi-weekly cadence going.
Okay, so bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly is once every 2 weeks, right?
Every 2 weeks.
Get that English great.
Nice.
Yeah.
So my next question is, and we sort of hinted on it earlier, is branding. Like, so for someone in the music industry or someone looking to start a business or someone, struggling with a business, trying to find a direction, what would you say about branding to that person and the importance of branding?
Branding is really just your identity.
Okay.
So what do you want people to think when they come across your brand or your name, your logo, your identity? What do you want people to how do you want people to feel? And you have to think about that in a way that is very technical. Again, I was talking about passion and being technical earlier. You have to think about it from a very technical perspective, because when Coca-Cola creates a brand called Coke Vanilla, right? There's an image and there's a there's a way that it needs to interact with whoever comes across that particular product, right? Because of that, everything they do is deliberate. Oh, this color, you know, and that font, and this image, and the look, and the perspective. I'm short, so I don't want people to think I'm short. So now I have to be technical about how I take my pictures, right? So I take my photos because I'm just 5'8". I want people to think I'm 6'2" because I don't know, people just gravitate towards tall people, right? So that's my marketing ploy for my brand. So I have to be technical about it and think, okay, you know what? How do I make sure that I'm always this way? If you've ever met like Janet Jackson in person, she is short.
Wow.
If you've ever met well, Prince when he was alive, everybody knows Prince is short. Eventually everyone knew he was short, but if you were just watching the music videos, you couldn't really tell.
MI is short. I actually met him in person.
Well, yeah, and I'm not going to talk about MI's height.
No, let's not talk about it.
Let's talk about people who can come back and kick our asses. Beyonce is short.
Really?
Did you know that?
I'm short. Like, she has to be at least 5'8".
That's probably not tall. She's probably not as tall as you.
Wow.
Or maybe about your height, yeah. But
That's interesting.
She didn't look that way on screen, does she? So basically, it's about being deliberate, right? Whatever your brand is, whatever you want to put out there, and then you also need to research and really understand what people like. There's a tendency in Nigeria and this is for Nigerian artists now, to think that the flashier you are, you know, people like, you know. The one thing that I found to be the biggest draw in Nigeria for entertainers or celebrities in general is humility. If you're humble, people will like you. Not that I agree with it, but that's what it is, right? So once you recognize that, every time you show off, you lose people in Nigeria, is what I found. Every time people feel like you're doing things that they can never attain, or they can never, you know, not to make it sound negative, but I usually say misery loves company, right? People feel like, oh, the fact that this guy has all these things that I can never have, but he still wants to hang out with me makes him cool to me. So now I have an attachment to the guy. So now I love the guy. And Two-Face embodies that. Sound Sultan embodies that. And people love them, and that's the reason why they're still relevant today. Is I feel like that's the strongest thing in that industry. It's not about how flashy you are, it's really about humility. In the States, in my experience, I think it's been really more about being relatable. People feeling like they can connect with you. You know what I'm saying? So the more relatable, the more like personal things people know about you, the more they know that you're not perfect, the more they know that, you know, you make the same mistakes as we do, and, you know, people just want to be able to connect, right? So if you understand that as a brand, as a music brand, then everything that you do should deliberately lead you down that path to where you can, you know, hold on to your fan base, basically, I think.
So I have a follow-up question based on that you just said. How do you, if you're someone who doesn't like if you're private and you don't like to share, how do you balance that and still be?
You can't be.
Because, you know, you just mentioned being relatable, you know. Letting people know, you know, you're not, you know, you have imperfections too and things like how do you balance that?
So here's how you think about it. It's about what people think, right? It's not about what really is. The character that I portrayed when I was Eldee on TV is not really who I am. But I was deliberate about portraying a certain character. Even though the character that I portrayed, if I could do it over, I would do it totally differently. I would do it because I know more now than I did back then. My understanding back then of what I thought, who I thought I needed to be, was who I was projecting, and it gave me a lot of fans, but I also lost a lot of people because of it. Because some people just didn't like the fact that I seemed unapproachable. You know, the Eldee, the Dawn character, was a character that, if you were close to me personally, you could connect and you could like me. But if you weren't, then I seemed somewhat unapproachable and distant and just like not
Yeah.
relatable in a way that most people would like, considering what people like in Nigeria. You know what I'm saying?
Understand.
So it's about just being deliberate. So it's not. It doesn't have to be your honesty or your truth.
Right.
It just has to be what you want people to see.
See. Okay.
Shell did a campaign, and this is just totally off, but talking about branding.
Mm-hmm.
Shell did a campaign this month actually, and basically it's a sorry campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically going to, over the next 2 years, because they have a new CEO or something, they're basically going to go on this whole PR mission where they're going to apologize for all the things they've done and all the oil spills and the Niger Delta and all these things, and they're going to go and try and help to fix, you know, the communities that they've basically destroyed. It's a PR move. We know, you know, it's all about profits at the end of the day, but it's deliberate. It's just about being deliberate about what you want people to perceive when they come across your brand. Yeah.
Wow, nice. So my last question is, what are your plans for the future?
For the future, I don't know. I think I want to. Someone said to me recently that I was probably going to end up being a professor or something of some sort at some college. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I just want to share. Like, I feel like especially now, I'm reading a lot more now and I'm learning a lot more, and I feel like the more I understand society and culture, the more I want to hopefully help people learn about these things. Because I feel like if I knew the things that I know now 10, 20 years ago, I would have done things a whole lot different. And I want to be able to share and help people sort of through that whole thing. So everything's is kind of going in that direction. The podcast, the books I'm trying to write, you know, and everything else that I'm doing. Yeah.
Well, that's it, Eldee. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for being here. Like,
me.
I personally think, I think you're very approachable. Like, you know, I stalk people
You think
I
that
like.
now?
No, I mean, yeah, I didn't know you back then, but I feel like social media helped me engage and get to know you on a different level. I'm personally one of those people who stalk people I love on social media, and you know, from your tweets, even the way you interacted with me, like, I expected some people will go like, oh, I'll get back to you, or you know, maybe you're gonna have to talk to my assistant or my PA or something, and I found admirable. It's like, you know, yes, helping and just wanting to, you know, I really was truly honored by that, and thank you for being who you are. Like, you're really, really, I find you very, very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you
Keep
very
it
much.
up, and I look forward to reading your autobiography someday.
Hey, someday, hopefully in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
But thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, that's it, guys. Until next time. Bye.